Wow.
I mean, on the one hand, really harsh. On the other hand, he did become a serial killer.
Welcome to Inchworm,
The podcast in which we're inching through worm. I'm Jenny.
and I'm Ted.
And I was so right about this chapter.
Yes, it was one of your most ridiculously on-point predictions yet.
Not only is it Armsmaster, Colin, but it's also Mannequin.
Yeah.
I was right about both things.
We got the break-in.
However, that was not my main takeaway. My main takeaway was that this is so romantic.
Oh.
It's such a nice love story.
Oh.
Dragon and Colin, I still have some concerns. I feel like having seen him in this chapter, I'm a little less concerned. Maybe? I don't know. We should talk about that.
Definitely.
But do you have any initial things you want to say? Or
I mean, I think we should just get into it. Summarize. I want to talk about the romance of it all. It's very funny because my takeaway was like, this was such a great action horror chapter. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
I'm all about the romance here. Okay. So, Colin is, of course, in his floor of the PHQ building, and he hears something, a clink. So he messages Dragon, who says, "Distract me, I beg you, and we're going to talk about it." And he hears it again. Dragon locates it for him in the vent. He thinks about trying to go for his helmet, which will link back to his combat analyzer, but he doesn't think he's going to have time. Instead, he goes for the little pocket knife that is a model of his nano-branch disintegration weapon that is just on a stand on his desk. So he grabs the little disintegrating pocket knife, and some things come out of the vent. It explodes from the wall, and these body parts emerge in their sort of artificial casings, including two halves of a torso with clear panes of, I don't know, glass, something, where you can see halves of the organs, and the organs are working, they're pumping. There are also artificial components in there making everything work. The body parts kind of all fall to the ground. Colin's like, okay, yes, this is Mannequin. I know this from the briefings. And while the body parts are like starting to assemble, Colin's like, oh, I'll attack. But the hand, which is not attached to the body yet, shoots out a telescoping blade, and Colin's able to like fall onto his back and evade it. And then the body starts assembling. There are some chains joining things together. There's some electromagnetism. The head is the last part to join the body. It kind of like bumps up the body to find its position at the top. And the head, there's no eye holes, no ear holes, no like openings for air intake. It's just as white and smooth as an eggshell.
Yeah, all of the different limbs are like this white, generic, formless plastic looking. But then it's all linked up by chains or magnetism.
Yeah. So the body is together, and Colin whispers to Dragon, like, are you getting this? And she has speakers and microphones all around the room. So her voice comes out of the speaker right behind him, and it's incredibly quiet. And she just says, help is on the way, Colin. So Mannequin's standing there, like, testing out his body, and Colin's like, is he trying to intimidate me? Like, why would he be demonstrating this for me? And then some blades come out of his arm, and Colin's like, ooh, I don't think I'm going to be able to duck that. But Mannequin slices into the computer, and then the blades retract. And Colin's like, okay. There's just some time passing in silence. Mannequin isn't speaking. And Colin's like, talk to me, Dragon. And Dragon fills him in on Mannequin, a lot of which Colin already knew, but it's sort of soothing to hear it again. He was named Alan Graham. He originally went by the name Sphere. He is, of course, a tinker. And he was a terraformer who had this project to create biospheres on the moon and like solve world hunger and do all this great stuff. And then the Simurgh attacked his city, wherever he was living. His wife and children were killed. Years of his work were ruined. He went mad, Dragon says. He cut himself off from the rest of the world, literally sealed himself away. And then she sort of warns Colin that, like, he has a body count. And Colin knows, yeah, he particularly goes after tinkers. So Colin starts basically trying to provoke him as like, what do you want, monster? You'd be doing me a favor to kill me. And Dragon's like, oh, I think he's actually here to recruit you. And Colin is horrified. He's like, I have nothing in common with you. And Dragon's like, don't provoke him, but no, Colin's going to. Mannequin, meanwhile, uses another blade to scrape the keys off the keyboard that, was already sliced, and sets up on the edge of Colin's desk the letter U, and then a space, and then the letters M-E. And Colin's like, you, me? Is this a riddle? And Mannequin takes a piece of the monitor, like something reflective, and sets it up at an angle so that Colin can see half of his own face overlapping with Mannequin's head. And he's like, oh no. And Colin starts screaming at Mannequin about how he's nothing like Mannequin. He deliberately didn't have a family so that this kind of thing couldn't happen. And, Dragon's begging him to stop, but Colin's shouting about how, maybe they both have screwed up, but the difference is that Colin's actually done something good with his life and he's trying to do even more. And what Mannequin's doing now is insulting the memories of his family. And Mannequin slams him into the wall, shoves a blade through his shoulder, the one where the arm is missing, and then punches the blade into his stomach. And Dragon screams, and then the blade catches Colin across the face, and Colin tries to attack Mannequin with his little knife, and seems like he's getting close, but it turns out that Mannequin is just toying with him, and he's horribly injured, and it turns out Mannequin is very strong in his tinker suit. And then Colin falls over, and the last thing he sees is Mannequin holding up the little knife and then testing it on the wall. And then he passes out, and the last thing he hears is from Dragon, no, Colin, stay awake. I need you. And then he wakes up. There's a section break, and he wakes up and hears Dragon's voice saying, welcome back. And he's like, oh, I'm alive. And Dragon says, your heart stopped 9 times on the operating table. You are alive thanks to artificial parts. I supplied the 3D scanner and the components, and people built them at your headquarters. Your new eye isn't working. I can get you one that works. And he's like, no, you have better things to be doing. I think I could pull off an eye patch. She's like, these are only temporary parts. I'll have to make you better ones. By the way, that was incredibly stupid what you did with Mannequin. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to find an opening. He was going to kill me anyway. And Dragon's like, no, I don't think he was going to kill you. He could have killed you. And she shows him a picture of the message that Mannequin left for him. It's more keyboard keys. It's BR8, which he assumes is supposed to mean BRB. Be right back. And he's like, he couldn't have expected me to survive. Oh, well, he's brilliant. He probably could have expected me to survive. And then he changes the subject. He says, what was that I heard as I was passing out? I need you. And she doesn't respond at first. And he's like, oh, I messed it up. I never know what to say. I always do this kind of thing. And then she says, the prosthetics I gave you, those were part of a bigger project, something I intended to use for myself. He's like, oh, does she, is this why she doesn't show her face? Is there something? He says she was a cripple. We can talk about that language choice. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And she says, no, it's not that. There's something you need to know about me. So we leave them with Dragon about, presumably, to tell him that she's an AI and she doesn't have a body. Yeah.
Big stuff.
Big stuff.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to dig into. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with the romance, which is where we ended.
The most romantic chapter in Worm.
It is. We know from her interlude that she thinks that Colin is infatuated with her, and she's like, do I feel the same for him? I don't know what that would feel like. Right.
I do think about him. I feel differently about him than anyone else, and I have a special fondness. Indulge him in ways I shouldn't.
Yeah. But everything we see from her here is like, oh yeah, she returns these feelings. Starting from the distract me, I beg of you, is so flirtatious. I've messaged with people that way. It's so clear and wonderful. And then she is the voice in his ear during this tense scene, and she's so invested. And I love the moment when he gets stabbed and the line is, "Dragon's scream came from every speaker in the room."
Yeah.
It's like she is in the machine. Like she is machine. Like she doesn't have a different body than that. And so the speakers are acting out like her screaming.
Right. And like when she's whispering to him, it's so localized, right?
Yeah,
like at one
she's
point,
controlled. Yeah.
At one point he thinks she was so quiet, he would have thought he imagined it if he didn't know her.
Yeah.
And yet, right. So, but then to have her just sort of lose control, you know, be in all of the speakers, express herself through her.
And that's like, if she were a human operating speakers, she would have to put deliberate thought into having her voice come from all the speakers. But no, she just exists in the computer system. So having her voice come from the speakers is just an expression of what she's feeling.
Yeah.
And it's all the speakers. And then she's saying like, "No, I need you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so great because like she didn't know if she could say, "I love you." Like last time we heard from her, she's like, I don't know if I feel that. But she knows that she needs him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really nice. I'm tempted to immediately go into arguing for the potential dangers of the relationship.
There are potential dangers.
But I do have a lot of notes that are just like, oh, like just, it's really sweet. Like the flirting, how well he knows her. The one that really got me is when Dragon's clearly smarter than Colin.
Well, yes.
But when she puts together that Mannequin is here to recruit him to the Slaughterhouse Nine, and Colin hasn't realized it yet. And then we get this, there was a sound from Dragon in a tone that was afflicted with agonizing disappointment. Like a mother who had just found out her son had been arrested for a felony, she said, "Oh, Colin." Right? Like, it's so nice, right? Like, she knows him so well, she's figured it out, and she sees what Mannequin sees, right? But is also sad.
Tinker who's lost everything.
Right, sad because he's about to realize, the implication, and it's so unflattering.
Yeah. One of my favorite subtle moments about the romance, at least tangentially, is so he wakes up in this bed. He has all these body parts that have been replaced because of his injuries. And we get the line, he says, "You have better things to be doing than replacing my eye." His stomach felt strange. I was like, wait, Dragon's thing was that she didn't know if she felt love because every time she sees it described, it's like a fluttering in the stomach.
Oh.
And now Colin has an artificial stomach. He can't necessarily feel that. Yeah. But they can maybe be a little bit more on the same page with feeling things for each other.
Yeah, that's wonderful. One of my favorite bits was when Dragon's like, "Your heart stopped. A lesser man wouldn't have made it." And Colin says, "How?" And she says, "Artificial parts." Yeah. Right? So she says it, and sort of like the way that he takes it is like a lesser man in the sense of like his strength, like his conviction, his ability to just like power through. But she means it in the sense that like, now you are more than human, right? Like I have given you, I
don't actually know. She might mean someone who wasn't as physically strong couldn't have pulled through.
Maybe. I feel like there's a sense of humor there.
I don't know. You can maybe read it either way.
And continuing on from that, the dynamic of like, she's so apologetic, right? It's like, like, I'm going to have to keep operating on you. Like, your parts don't work. I'm so sorry. And the fact that he doesn't care at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's so grateful. He's so grateful to be alive for her, right? Like, it's honestly one of the things that I took away from this is like, he's not vain about his looks, right? He kind of presented to us initially as like, he's like sexy John, arms master. He like likes to be the big guy that everybody's looking at. And we know that he has a huge ego. Yeah. But it's about his impact, his effect on the world.
Yes,
right? Like,
I think that's true.
It's not personal vanity in the same way. And so like, for me, like when he starts cracking a joke, like, I think I could pull off an eye patch, right? Like after being brutally maimed and becoming part cyborg or whatever, that he's immediately able to go to that joke. I'm like, okay, I love this guy now. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some depth here that I may not have seen in the story so far that I am really enjoying.
Yeah, he's not being like a petty child about this. I loved the thing where she says, "I'm sorry about your face," and he feels his face, and his flesh transitioned into a smooth plastic and back to flesh again. I'm getting sort of Phantom of the Opera vibes, but like there is some sort of plastic component of his face, which is such an interesting connection to Dragon not having a face. And also Mannequin having this smooth plastic helmet. And he is farther towards Mannequin in this, but Mannequin did it to himself in a way where he can't connect to anyone anymore. And Colin, first of all, is like this because of his connection to Dragon. And was able to survive and get these parts because of that. And also is clearly choosing that further connection. I mean, I guess we don't know what he'll choose once he finds out the news about Dragon. But like, from what we know about him, I think he'll just be like enchanted. Be like, a super smart AI likes me. Like,
oh my God, yes. Well, okay, so I do want to get into that a little bit, right? The thing where she shouts, "I need you." It's so sweet. And I think that is the moment that motivates her to confess about her identity, if not her feelings, at the end, right?
Yes.
Right. It's seeing that Colin is going to die and realizing I'm losing him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, we know it's both things.
That
she's losing a man she cares about, but she's also losing the one hope that she has of breaking her chains and being free.
Yeah.
And so she can confess to him her identity, even her feelings, but she cannot confess to him what she wants him to do, right?
Right. She's not even allowed to tell him that. That's true.
So there is a way in which it's a selfish choice for Dragon, right? And so like...
That's true.
And so there's still this dynamic of not only is she using him, right? She does like him a lot, right? But then also, can she trust him, right?
Right.
And maybe we can talk more about
what
we learn about Colin. But I do feel like, as sweet as it is framed in this chapter, I think there's still some tension there.
I mean, I think that it is selfish. To some extent, it's selfish in the way that romantic love often is selfish. Like, you want your beloved to be safe and well and happy, but you also want them to be with you, and you want them for yourself. And I think her affection for Colin and her wanting him to save her from stagnation are really mixed together. Like, I don't think there is a cold-blooded, like, I need this person because he will change me. Like, I think it's all part of a feelings package of her wanting to grow and seeing him as a way to do that and having this affection for him. And I think recognizing his aptitude in that regard is part of why she has affection for him. I think it's all very tangled up.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
And I think the scream really brings home to me how much it is emotional to her and not just like a calculated, like, no, that man must live because I need him to do a thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I hope so. You know.
I mean, it's so clear that Dragon does feel something.
Yeah. I guess I feel like then, probably the door is more open to, like, it could still be somewhat tragic, you know, like, we don't know. It's very heavy, the sort of what's going to happen when and if Colin tries to break Dragon free, and like, where will that lead the two of them? But yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of potential.
The thing is, you already know what happens.
Yeah,
Does that mean it's tragic? I don't know.
Oh, well, I feel like I should just never say anything.
No, I just got extra invested in this. Oh yeah, so should we talk about the ethical implications, or maybe the dangers of Colin potentially changing her, rewriting some of her code, given what we know about him from this chapter?
Go right ahead.
Yeah. So I did sort of come away from this less concerned, but I don't know how much that's actually justified. So he cares so much about his impact. He does care about saving people. And I think this wasn't totally clear after like, I feel like this chapter shifted my assessment from, like, and he wants to be the big man on campus to, like, yeah, but he really cares about the impact he has on people. Like, he cares about the ends a lot.
Yeah.
The problem with Colin is he just doesn't have a lot of scruples about the means. And
I'm a soldier. I made a choice that could have saved millions.
Right. He doesn't
billions.
regret it.
Exactly.
He still thinks it was maybe stupid and weak and I could have done better, but like only in that he wishes he'd succeeded at it, not that he wishes he hadn't tried it.
And he's willing to do time, right? He's like, I'm serving my sentence and I'm still trying to help out.
Right.
Like,
yeah, he's still doing things while he's in here.
He's resentful of like his fate. There's a lot of negative self-talk about how he wasn't adequate enough to like get the job done, but not so much the like, how dare they put me here? How dare they not see
and not
how
like they should be venerating me. Exactly. It is more like I could be doing this good thing. His sense of self is so bound up in the impact for good that he's having on the world. So I think in that sense, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's good. I would just worry that he'll sort of take too large a swing. And in trying to do the most good possible, you know, it is sort of a high risk, high reward situation potentially with altering Dragon. And Dragon would probably prefer that it be done in a way that minimizes the risk of harm to people. And Armsmaster Colin seems to be more interested in maximizing the chance of good.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's dangerous when you're dealing with something as powerful as Dragon could be. Yeah. Someone as powerful as Dragon could be. And if he has her code in his hands.
Yeah, yeah. And what I am thinking about is they have a really fun dynamic in this chapter. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to it, will he think that he could use Dragon's power better than she could? Right? Like, I feel like this is the thing that hasn't been tested yet, is like, if he understands not, this is a tinker who is my equal, but this is a tinker who is my equal until, right, XYZ.
I steal her code and grow.
Right, like, will that be a temptation for him? I
hope not. I could see that as like a real dark heel turn for him, but I think I want to believe in his love, respect, consideration for her.
And there's also the again, thematically, right, we have Mannequin is the tinker who lost his family and went mad and has become this sadistic serial killer, you know, who's making the world a worse place. And in this chapter, Mannequin is like, well, Armsmaster, you're the same. You went up against Leviathan and lost everything, right? You're the same. Why don't you join me in going mad? But Armsmaster has Dragon. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Colin has Dragon.
He did not have any risk of going with Mannequin. Because.
And that's I guess, you know, we're probably not done talking about their dynamic, but to pull off of that, I am a little torn about whether Mannequin intended Dragon to cyborg Colin, as they suspected, or whether Mannequin got pissed off by Colin, left him for dead, and this was sort of more inadvertent. Because I feel the reason I'm wondering about that is, like, if Mannequin knows that Dragon can, you know, fix Colin, why doesn't he see that Dragon fixing Colin could represent a strong relationship? Right. Like, I feel like if Mannequin is so smart about this, is he planting seeds somewhere here to separate Colin from Dragon? Because to truly be like, Colin, you are like me, right? If he knows about the Dragon connection, then he needs to sabotage it. If he doesn't know about it, then I feel like it makes more sense as, like, he showed up, he invites this comparison, Colin flat out refuses him, and he's like, fine, you refuse me, I'll kill you and leave, right? Like, that all tracks. And, like, and then he says the BRB thing, you know, like, I don't know.
Right, he does say BRB, and he could have just cut his head off, like...
Yeah.
He doesn't kill him.
But I'm very interested in whether or not we'll get some more clarity, right? Because they think sort of like, oh, he's so brilliant, Mannequin was in control the whole time, he orchestrated everything, you know. I'm curious how much that is true.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like Slaughterhouse Nine came to town. They didn't necessarily do like a ton of research on these individual people that they were going to approach. Like, obviously Mannequin knew about Colin's fall from grace. He knew where he was staying. He had a sense like, oh, this is someone else who lost everything due to an Endbringer attack and could become like me. But like, how would he know about Colin's relationship with Dragon? How would he know about Dragon's like prosthetic project? Like, that just seems like such a big reach. Yeah. I do kind of wonder if there's some kind of like, maybe it's almost reckless abandon. Like, I'm gonna injure you really badly. Maybe it's even a mirror of some ways that Mannequin got injured. Who knows? I don't know if Mannequin actually got injured in the attack that killed his family. If it's just like, well, if he survives, then I'll come back and like offer to rehabilitate him in this weird way that I have modified my body. Yeah.
I guess the reason I jumped into this was because I think you were suggesting Armsmaster flat out refused, right? Like, are you saying you just don't see Colin joining the Slaughterhouse Nine?
I mean, I think because of Dragon, Colin would never join the Slaughterhouse Nine. If he had been alone in his room for, it probably would take longer than this, without having this kind of personal connection, then I think there would be more of a danger that he would just, I don't know, snap in some way. But like, he's not disposed to that in the first place because he does care so much about his impact on the world and wants it to be good. But I think the connection with Dragon just means that that's off the table for him. Yeah. And I love that because he throws the wife and kids in Mannequin's face as like, this was your weakness and this is why you turned evil. And I think it's the connection to Dragon that is going to be Colin's strength and his, you know, salvation, quote unquote.
Or is that if you're somebody who thinks connections are a weakness when you realize you have one, right? Like, how much is that going to be a problem for him? I see what you're saying. Yeah. I want it to be that way.
I think that he thinks having like an unpowered wife and kids would be a weakness because they might get killed. But like, if your partner is Dragon,
if you're a soldier, you can be in love with another soldier. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Dragon is probably the least in danger of being killed entity in the world.
Okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. That's a very fair point.
Do you know what she did though? Like, you can spin what she did in giving him the body parts a lot of ways, but like, she kind of gave him her body. Yeah. Like the body that she was preparing for herself. Yeah. She gave it to him, and that's just such a... There's so much resonance in that gesture.
Yeah. You could say he's becoming a cyborg, or you could say now he has half of a woman's body. It's a beautiful transition either way. I love the conversation, the banter, where she's like, hey, by the way, you're stupid. Right? And then he laughs, and she's like, yeah, I hope that hurt. Right? But then his logic is like, well, I wanted to provoke him, like, see if I could do any damage. Like, he was going to kill me anyway. Right? And she's like, not only was that the stupidest thing I've ever seen, but like, he wasn't going to kill you anyway. In fact, he didn't kill you anyway. Yeah. And then it takes him a while to sort of put those pieces together about like, oh, he might be coming back. But so I do wonder if there is something in that, like, Colin so violently choosing in that moment, I would rather die than even humor a comparison between the two of us, and fully committing that to that, like, makes him less gettable by Mannequin, right? It's like when the rubber met the road, he was like, I'm willing to die rather than join the Slaughterhouse Nine. And you could imagine a world where Colin is able to sort of like do some sweet talking. It doesn't go quite as badly for him, and then it leaves without getting to that point. Him. Right, but then
he doesn't get tangled.
Does doubt creep in? Right, he doesn't. He refuses the tangle by basically saying, "Nope, you're here." Like, I find this offensive, and like, I guess Dragon can see it. I can kind of see it, but fuck you, kill me. Right, like, I would rather you kill me than to compromise on, you know, this part of my morality.
Yeah, and he doesn't do the small, subtle stuff. He takes big swings, and sometimes he swings too big, but...
So I just like for Colin, if this big swing is something that Mannequin would have miscalculated about, instead of something where Mannequin's like, oh, well, I know he'll take a big swing, so I'm going to leave him for death, and then he'll become a cyborg, and then I can come back and do it, you know, like... You know, we'll see where it goes, but like...
Right. But I feel like what we've seen from the Slaughterhouse Nine so far is that, like, each of them is, like, approaching someone and they just don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're all, like, masterminds. Like, I feel
Of
like
course.
Mannequin gives that impression more than the others just because of, I mean, he's clearly a brilliant tinker and, like, no face and just this sort of machine. But, you know,
And
Jack Slash didn't know that Oni Lee lost his thoughts.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point.
They don't know things about the people
Yeah.
they're approaching.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's so funny. Like Siberian's thing about, like, well, are you a dog or a wolf? Right? Like his whole thing where he comes in with the keyboard and the mirror and he's like, it's so theatrical. They're all the Slaughterhouse Nine are drama queens.
Yes.
It's so funny. Right? Like, it's great. On another angle of that, right? It's necessary, right? Mannequin is not like a spree killer. He's not someone who wants to show up and just murder people in order to achieve some end, right? Mm-hmm. He's here to recruit Colin, and he's here to torment him, and he's trying to be cruel in that he sees that Colin's trying to attack him with the nanoblade, and he lets him get so close. Uh-huh. But like in this part, right, I totally believe Mannequin is in control the whole time.
Yes.
And he's just doing this to hurt Colin.
Yeah.
Right? So it's so important that Mannequin cares about the drama.
Yeah.
Because if he didn't care about the drama, he would just kill him, right? Like, and then like there's no there, right? Like the whole point of these different scenes, right? Like Theo's approach to Jack is like, I'm gonna mollify you. Like let's just get through this, right? Colin's approach is the exact opposite. He goes straight to 11 and gets killed. I mean, he dies, right? He then comes back
9 times. Yeah. It's like a cat.
But so, like, Mannequin has all of the power in the situation. He could have chosen to kill Colin at any time.
Yeah.
And it's just a question of how Colin navigates that.
I mean, I do wonder, presumably Mannequin can hear him? Question mark? I would assume.
Yeah, because he reacts to being taunted.
Yeah. So I wonder how much he was just angry. Even if,
right,
maiming Colin was part of his plan, was he just hurting him? Like, I mean, I guess you were saying this earlier, like, did he just lose his temper because Colin's, like, throwing some terrible stuff in his face?
Yeah, can I read some of these? Like,
yeah.
I didn't date, I didn't have kids, because I wanted to be out there helping. I knew that any attachments could be used against me, so I went without. I was fucking smart enough to do that.
Ooh, what a thing to say to someone who lost their entire family.
Telling him that having a family was stupid, right? Like, it was illogical, right? Like, oh my God.
Stupid and weak having that family.
But also, it's so telling about Colin, right?
Yeah.
He's such a lonely man. Yeah. He's so lonely. And he's got to rationalize that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if I had people, they would distract me from my important work.
But I do honestly think that was an active choice he made. Like, I don't think he just got to 30 or whatever and was like, oh, I'm single. Well, that's smart. Like, I think he did deliberately cut himself off from...
That doesn't mean he's not lonely, though.
Oh, no,
right?
he's definitely lonely. But I don't think it's like him rationalizing it because he had no choice. I think it's a rationalization that has guided his life.
That is interesting. I mean, that is fascinating, because it's like a chicken and egg thing, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I feel like it's
he's just someone who couldn't have attracted a partner. Like, I don't think that's the case.
But maybe he couldn't have attracted the kind of partner he wanted, right? He's someone who cares so much about status, who cares so much about, right? Like, he's like, oh, well, like, I don't want to date someone who's,
not dragon.
Yeah, like, he doesn't want to date someone he thinks is not as smart as him, or who can't keep up with his ambitions, or, like, he's looking for, like, if he's got sort of big fish in a small pond problems, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, all of these people in my high school class, they're such losers, I'm going to go study at university, and then, oh, well, like, all these people, like, it's only this one professor really gets me, or is like, okay, well, now I have to go off and prove myself in the protectorate. And it's right. Like, I could see that loneliness of circumstance and rationalizing that away because of ambition feed on each other, you know?
Yeah.
I think I made it caricatured in my first first thing of it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to give him credit for that terrible choice.
Yeah. And
or at least questionable choice.
We also don't know what his trigger event is. And so it'd be really interesting to think about, like, right, his powers, like, he can have anything if he's prepared and he can kind of miniaturize it and put it all in one place, right? So, you know, I feel like there are a few ways you could read that in terms of...
He's definitely a control freak, and I think would have trouble opening his life to someone.
Yeah. And, like, you know, maybe he had a relationship he liked and the person left him because he was difficult, you know, like, and then he's like, oh, well, you can rationalize that away. Anyway, now we're just in, like, writing fanfic. He goes on insulting Mannequin, right? He has this very black and white, like, worldview of, like, I was fighting evil and taking down criminals, right? Like, this is everyday steps here. And, you know, he thinks he'd go down fighting, hurt Mannequin the only ways he could, right? We both had bad days, but, you know, you started your big projects, got every fucking person in the world to get their hopes up, and then you failed to finish anything because you couldn't hack it when your fucking family got killed. Wow. I
mean, on the one hand, really harsh. On the other hand, he did become a serial killer. Like, it's not like he's just, like, guilting him for, like, slacking off.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it's like, just that he couldn't hack it, right? It's like, if Mannequin had been tougher or less emotional, you know, like...
Yeah, I mean, I also want to take this with a grain of salt because he is deliberately trying to provoke him.
True,
he's not... True. This isn't necessarily his deeply held beliefs.
Yeah. This is also, like, getting people's hopes up and failing. It's like, he's going to have some guilt about Leviathan. Right?
I do think that is something he feels genuinely, that, like, he wants to stand in front of humanity as a symbol of hope, but he also sees that as, like, a really serious responsibility to deliver.
Yeah, and he has not delivered. I was also thinking,
at least
like...
not as much as he wants to.
Whether or not this comes from Colin or not, no wonder Kid Wan has a complex about his unfinished projects, right?
Yeah.
Every tinker's got to be thinking about the sphere situation, right?
Oh, like, wow.
Sort of like, oh, you know, we had the best tinker, the one who was going to create a moon base and Atlantis, and
dragon, but
yeah, but you know, like,
yes,
and then like, oh, well, oops. Going on to a new thing, though. This thing about we both had bad days. It's interesting thinking back to last chapter about the theme of bad days, right? What it means to have a bad day. But here, Colin's particular regrets. Days where nothing went right, where we were too slow, too stupid, too weak, unprepared, or tired. Days we'll regret for the rest of our fucking miserable lives. What we would have done differently, right? How things could have played out. All of Colin's regrets here are about his own inadequacy and his own
Colin
agency.
had a bad day where he did things not very well.
Right.
Mannequin had a bad day where his family got killed by Luciferberg.
But it's so telling about how Colin sees the world, right? Yeah. This is a classic, like, superhero complex, right? Because Colin is not saying, like, oh, I was facing down these huge systems, you know, these, like, I was fighting climate change and that's so hard, right? Like, even the way that he thinks about the problem with what he did socially with the hospital scene in Leviathan, he thinks about it as a faux pas, right? Which is so funny as like he thinks the optics issue there is the important thing. And he's like, oh, you know, like if I'd said it differently, they would have understood. It's like, no, people actually think what you did was bad on the merits, right? Like.
Yeah, but Colin doesn't think so. He thinks it was only bad because he failed.
Right. Exactly. And that he didn't know how to sweet talk everybody around to his, you know.
He does have a little bit of Taylor in him. He doesn't think he's good at talking to people in a way that will convince them. Doesn't have good persuasion stats.
Can I point out more beautiful connections to Taylor?
Yeah.
There's so much good stuff. So, like, when Mannequin shows up, while Mannequin was incapacitated, he charged. I was like, this is so Taylor. Like, he's ready. He understands the advantage of offense, right? He's like, I'm going to attack him, right? Like, here I go. He runs in. He doesn't care about his own body, right? Like, he's willing to put it all on the line as long as he can do a little bit of damage. And then he has that moment at the end where he's like, okay, I still have a big hero moment. If I can pierce his little organ container, surely there'll be some pathogen, something will get in there and mess him up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very optimistic in this moment, I think. Like, I feel like that's also maybe a flaw in his thinking. But it's Taylor's Bakuda moment, right?
Yeah,
it's like totally strung out.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, I can just do exactly one more thing. So I'm going to take a really big swing.
She succeeds, yeah. I do love that when he's doing that, he's like, you know, obviously I'm going to die, but like, if I manage to kill him, like all the people who otherwise would have been harmed by him will be spared. And like, I love that I'm such a sucker for like a noble motivation. Like, even though he has some issues with how he achieves things, like he really genuinely wants to save people, wants people to be saved because of the things that he does.
Yeah. And he's also the opposite of Jack Slash for thinking this.
Yes.
Right.
He cares about the impact just like Jack does, but he wants the good impact.
Yeah. Yeah. If I kill you now, think about all the people you won't affect.
Yes. All the people you won't kill.
So we haven't talked about Mannequin.
Yes.
The coolest Slaughterhouse Nine member so far. How are you feeling about Mannequin?
I mean, deeply creepy, but like kind of awesome.
Yeah, like the like robot body horror is so good. Like, he is a cyborg, but he seems like an android, right? Like, he's so inhuman. And like,
he gave me Eva vibes from WALL-E, just like the aesthetic.
Exactly. Very Eva aesthetic, but with chains.
But with chains, that's true.
The thing where, like, he pops out of the vent and he just kind of, like, comes tumbling out in a pile of body parts.
Yeah.
And then he slowly, like, all the chains retract and the magnets activate and, like, pop in his arm and leg. And then his head on a really long chain just kind of, like, bumbles its way up his body and then just, like, snaps into place. It is amazing. It's like,
how does he control his body?
Yeah.
The science is baffling.
Yeah.
He must be such a good tinker.
Right. And like the idea of creating, hermetically sealing all of your body parts into their own personalized biomes that have been enhanced. Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible, right? Like, his fingers like flex too much. Oh my God. I love everything about his aesthetic. Even the fact that he's like, you know, he looks like Eva from WALL-E, right? When he cuts Armsmaster at the end, the blood sprays all over his white thing. I'm like, of course, you gotta wear white if you're a serial killer. That great splatter effect.
The metaphor of what he has done to his body is so potent. This idea, so he lost his wife and kids, I think it was. Yeah. And he now feels like he's been cut in half, and so he makes that happen physically for himself. And he seals himself off so that he can't be harmed by any more attachments. Like he puts himself in this like container. And it feels like the way that everyone wants to be able to like embody grief, but like most people aren't superpowered tinkers, so they can't.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's like, oh my God, I don't know. This is such a funny comparison to me, but do you remember that story about somebody whose engagement broke off after he had purchased the ring? And so he exchanged the ring for a full replica of the combat armor from Master Chief in Halo that he could wear. And it was exactly that thing of like, I will protect myself from the loss of this relationship by getting my own suit of power armor for the cost of one diamond ring.
We love a metaphor.
Yeah, so hopefully the guy who went viral for that didn't become a serial killer.
No, probably not. Probably not. I mean, he also probably didn't divide his chest in two with like a pane of like clear plastic or whatever, so you could see half his heart beats. Pumping. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah, and Mannequin's whole right, like it's such a great fallen hero story. I don't know how many of those we've seen in the story so far, and then like the effect of the Simurgh, we don't really know, but like it's almost like he had another trigger event with how much he changed, right? Like, and like I feel like this whole, you know, power as metaphor thing with him cutting himself off, right? It's like his power was one thing where he's creating these exuberant places for people to be together, and then this event was so traumatic there's no indication that his power
be together
changed.
with itself.
It's just that something in him broke, and now he's become a totally different
And
character.
I do wonder, we know the Simurgh has some sort of psychic effect.
Yeah.
Like, what the danger with the Simurgh is what happens afterward.
Yeah.
Like,
this seems like a great case study in what that means.
Become this because of his loss, or was it like an actual direct effect of the Simurgh, who he was probably fighting? And just the thing of like the sort of triangle of like, do your relationships matter? Do your morals matter? Does your power matter? Right? Mannequin is such a case study in like, he was so good, then he lost the things that he actually cared about, which were his relationships, which, to Artmaster's point, don't matter in the like the ends scale of like utilitarian outcomes. Sure.
For Mannequin, they mattered.
Yeah.
And he lost them, and he became, this evil guy.
I wonder also, it seems like he lost years of his work. I wonder if he hadn't lost that, if it would have been easier to just bury himself in his work, or if he would have, maybe that was immaterial to what happened to him. I don't know. Yeah.
I also love, just like, I don't know if you were worried that Colin would die, but there are a few paragraphs. How brutal the violence is. Because he gets stabbed through the shoulder, and then it's like next paragraph, stabbing his chest. Then cut across his face. Then Colin can't talk because there's blood flowing out of his mouth. It's very brutal and very effectively described, and like shockingly escalating on like a sentence to sentence level.
Yeah.
So like the point with it in a page, you're like, his
he's
shoulder.
Dying. Okay, well, he doesn't have that harm.
He's not coming back from this.
Yeah. I want to say there's a real eye patch thing going on in this chapter.
Yeah.
Like we get, so at the end, Dragon's like, your eye isn't working. I'm not sure why not. And Colin's like, it's okay. I can pull off an eye patch. And there's a moment as he's trying to cut into Mannequin's face with his little disintegrating knife. It says, the knife inched closer, hairs away. He could see the material of the casing smoke just beneath Mannequin's quote-unquote eye, a dark patch revealing itself beneath. And just that connection, it's subtle. Like, it's not like Colin resembles Mannequin at the end in super, like, obvious ways just to look at him, but, like, it's another piece of, like, he is taking on some of those characteristics. Yeah. Mannequin is like a virus who is spreading itself.
And this, in contrast to our characters who have their very fleshy bodies scarred, and then take that almost as a point of pride, right? Like the Vista thing. Mannequin presents as the perfect mannequin-like, there's no blemish at all. But so in this scene, is he letting himself get marked for some reason that is significant to him? Is it a mistake, right? Does Colin actually get a little closer for comfort than Mannequin would like? And I'm really wondering, if we see Mannequin again, is it going to be like Coil with the cigarette burn, where it's like, I cleaned this. Like, I had to rebuild my face because there was this one little imperfection. It's super important to me that I present this aesthetic.
Yeah.
Or is Mannequin going to be like, well, now I have that little mark from where Armsmaster almost got me, and that's like meaningful.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I also can't help but connect it with our other various losses of eyes, and I'm not sure there is a strong connection.
It's a gooey part that it hurts to think about losing.
It might just be that. I don't know. It's just that, like, eyes being taken out feels so significant.
And the Siberian,
Siberian just did that.
Guy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get a little bit more into the cyborg of it all with Colin. Right? Ooh. So there are a few moments, like, he's caught flat-footed by Mannequin, and he thinks, like, he'd never wanted his suit so badly, right?
So true.
He's already feeling like he's not enough without his armor, right?
He already wants more than just his physical body.
And there's this bit that I love where he thinks... He briefly debated going for the helmet with the link back to his old suit's combat analyzer, but it wasn't set up. It would cost him precious seconds, 20 or 30, before he connected to the main server. Until that happened, the helmet would only render him blind, a blank display. this is Dragon's experience of being chained at the beginning of her interlude, right?
Oh my gosh,
if he puts on his helmet, then he has to enter like boot mode, and he realizes what a vulnerable position that is. So it's like, it's amazing that he has this built-in like empathy for the situation that she finds herself in when she comes back from being killed. And he already
feels, he's almost like pining for cyborgness.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, that's not really how he's thinking about it, but he doesn't just want to be flesh and blood. He wants to be connected to the computer system.
Yeah.
He wants to have this artificial casing.
Yeah. And it's a really good example of extended cognition, which is like a theory of mind.
With like how we all use
philosophy
Google and Wikipedia and stuff.
Term. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like people talk about the brain or the mind as like a command and control center over the body, right? And then theories of cognition that are, you know, maybe a little bit more modern towards the end of the 20th century. Like David Chalmers, I think, is the name that comes to mind. But this idea that like cognition can happen within your body, embodied cognition, or it can happen between you and parts of the outside world, right? So like you're saying with Google or with a calculator, or in this case, Colin, right? Like he very directly created this intelligence system that extends his actual cognitive capabilities. It's
and I guess we all do it when we like
not inside
take
his brain.
Notes on paper or on our phones or something.
Exactly. And that's right. The act of taking notes is a great example of embodied cognition, right? Like the way that you slow yourself down and you're doing something with your hands, right?
But I mean, like leaving reminders for ourselves instead of just having to carry it all in our heads.
Oh yes, that too.
Yeah.
That too. And that's an example of extended cognition for sure. And who knows, I could be wrong. Cognitive scientists, Claire, sound off in the comments. But yeah, I mean, even when Colin is like first antagonizing Mannequin, he's like, I've already lost everything, right? Which is so funny because he's about to die and lose his human body. But again, he doesn't care. It's like it's only up from here, right? Like I feel like there's nothing at stake for him about becoming a cyborg. He's like, oh cool, now I got an eye patch, right? Like there's nothing in him that is not ready for it. He's almost entirely lost
his personal ambition. And we were talking already about like his goals are to have an impact on the world, but like he doesn't have a ton of ego bound up in like what that will gain him.
And when he first looks at Mannequin, Colin looked at the cases that surrounded each individual body part. Each body part a self-contained system. Everything non-essential stripped away and replaced. It's amazing to me that he looks at Mannequin and he's not thinking, oh my god, what a monster, so inhuman. He's like, wow, that's really efficient. Right? Like, if anything, the funny thing, what they have in common is like they're willing to transcend the human body. They like both see that as a good, like transhumanism as like
true.
We will become something greater than we can be on our own. Where they differ is just the fact that Mannequin is happy to be this broken man serial killer
and to be cut off from
everyone and
have negative impacts.
And Colin is not there at all. At least in this chapter, you know, who knows how badly he will break in the future.
True.
But I really enjoyed, I mean, knowing sort of what was coming at the end of the chapter, I really enjoyed the like cyborg foreshadowing that we got. I really, really enjoy what it says about Hannah that she sent Colin a get well card.
I forgot about that. And she must have said at the laptop, Armsmaster Colin assumes.
Right. As alone as we've been talking about him, he actually does, despite everything, have a good working relationship with Hannah. Right? This to me
Hannah is incredible.
Right. This does feel to me more like she's just doing it out of like common decency. But like
she has a lot of that.
I suspect that if he wanted to like talk to her and like, you know, like get some help with whatever he's struggling with, she would like hear him out and sit down and be like, sure, Colin. Yeah, like tell me what's on your mind. Yeah, you know, like maybe I can help. Right.
I had a thought about this story about how Mannequin was a hero who was going to terraform parts of the moon or whatever and end world hunger. And then the Endbringer attack happened. He lost his family. Unclear if he got physically damaged, but he certainly transformed his body. And he became this horrible villain. And it made me think, I had talked about, did capes arise somehow to counter the Endbringers? Sort of like principle of balance thing, or like someone, whatever these cosmic beings are, gave people this power because they knew the Endbringers were there, were coming, we're going to need opposition. And in this chapter, I was like, the Endbringers kind of cull the capes. And what if there's some sort of causality happening in reverse? Again, we don't know that there's causality in either direction. Like, we don't know that someone was like, oh, there are Endbringers, let's create capes. Or someone was like, oh, there are capes, let's create Endbringers. Like, I'm ascribing a lot of authorial intent to this universe, I guess. Or, I mean, the story has it, obviously, but the universe doesn't necessarily. But yeah, if something happened, someone started to create capes, like whatever these cosmic beings are, this alien race, like started doing this, or it started just happening and no one could help it, and they were like, oh no, humans are going to become so powerful. Like, this is going to get out of control. Like, we've seen that capes are being created, I think, more quickly now than they were. I think we've seen an acceleration. They talked about that. If that just keeps accelerating, like, oh no, all of humanity will be so powerful and they won't be contained on their little planet anymore. And
that's really interesting.
What if, someone who's watching this situation was like, I'll send them 3 huge monsters.
Well, yeah, so
will do their best to kill them.
So that means the Simurgh, or maybe the forces behind creating, deploying, enlisting the Simurgh, specifically have like a rule about like humanity, getting too advanced or too powerful.
Yeah.
And that like Sphere in particular was on the threshold of something.
Oh, that's actually beyond where I was thinking, but that's a good point.
Like, is there something about what Sphere was doing in particular, or is it more just like the fact that a cape was so committed to the greater good in a real sense was like, what was the trigger? We talked a lot about like, why did Leviathan attack Brockton Bay? So like, what was the trigger here?
That's actually a really good question. So I had been thinking about it sort of in more general terms, like what Sphere was trying to do, Mannequin's previous name, was the kind of thing that whoever created or sent the Endbringers would want to stop. Because, humanity would be leaving the planet, setting up life on the moon, who knows where else. It's possible that, first of all, why am I saying that, like, someone else sent the Endbringers? We didn't get an impression of intelligence from Leviathan, like, in his interactions with people, mostly because he didn't talk. But we were told that he's very intelligent. We did see strategic thinking from him, and we were told that the Simurgh in particular is intelligent. So maybe the Endbringers just saw capes emerging on Earth and were like, oh, nope, we're going to go stop them. And they're just, self-motivated to kill all of humanity. And you mentioned Sphere. I mean, maybe it was a deliberate attack to destroy Sphere's plans. Apparently, the Simurgh, if she was attempting that, failed to kill Sphere, but did turn him into Mannequin, which certainly a blow for humanity. And we were speculating, you were kind of saying like maybe Noelle was the target of Leviathan's attack. That is also possible. What we heard is that they tend to attack areas with some kind of instability, weakness, but like maybe that's not the real story, or maybe that's what they do if there isn't a clear target that they're trying to take out. Or maybe it's that areas with instability attract capes. Like we did kind of get told that like Brockton Bay, because of its economic troubles, has more capes than you would expect.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking. I wasn't intending to push you more towards their targeting people versus like with targeting Sphere versus targeting Sphere's projects or the place where Sphere had been set up, or so like I do think there's a lot we don't know, but I think both areas of inquiry are very interesting.
I mean, I had sort of been assuming they stay dormant for a few months until they're back to their full strength, and then they attack as soon as they feel up for it. Yeah. And they kind of just pick a target. And they are attacking as often as they can while staying physically fit or whatever.
Yeah. So maybe it was just what Sphere was doing was like the thing that would be most fun to break.
Yeah, or maybe it was a coincidence. But like, I feel like a coincidence is not super likely. And I do now like this idea of, like, the Endbringers just, like, personally don't want humanity to get more powerful. Like, maybe they're kind of sacrificing themselves for this. Maybe they're representatives of a larger group of beings that are like, no, we don't want this. Maybe whatever cosmic being, race, alien species is giving powers, like, has a division within it. And some of them are like, it's fun to give powers to, like, these, like, little creatures. And the others are like, this is so irresponsible. All right, you three have to give up your, like, hyperdimensionality and go live in 3 dimensions on Earth and get attacked by capes every few months. But you gotta call this. You gotta keep this problem under control. 'Cause, our, opposing party over there...
That's very fun.
Is just irresponsibly throwing powers at the humans.
That's very fun.
They're going to destroy themselves,
I like that a lot.
And especially now that humans have apparently figured out how to get powers for themselves. It's, like, it's still unclear whether that's something fundamentally different in nature from having the powers from wherever trigger events normally give them to you.
Yeah.
But it does seem like someone who's gotten a power one way can't get a power the other way, so there must be some connection. I don't know. Anyway...
This is lots of delicious and potentially fruitful or not speculation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I did want to bring up Colin's thought at the end of the chapter when he's thinking about, like, oh, well, why did she have all these, prostheses ready to go? Oh,
yeah.
She was a cripple, and using the word cripple here, right? So again, it's similar to some of the word choice in, like, Bitch's interlude that I talked about there, right? Like, he's using an offensive term, but one that can sort of be reclaimed. It's also interesting because he has lost his arm and now, like, it doesn't really come up in the chapter, but is sort of like now grappling with this new identity of a very visible physical disability. And, like, I feel like the work that the word choice does here feels very similar to what the word choice does in the Bitch interlude. It's just like this term hits me in a much more familiar context. And so either it's easier for me to, like, see that that's what it's doing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, it's interesting for me to keep thinking about how, like, this or, like, Amy's fat phobia back in Arc 3 and, like, some of those other things where it's, like, intentionally having characters use ugly words or be narrow-minded in certain ways, not be perfectly woke, is certainly an intentional choice, but the effect that it has on me is quite different from circumstance to circumstance.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Yeah, and I think Colin is someone who has lost an arm. I mean, you were talking about reclaiming. I don't know that he needs to be using it in some sort of, like, unproblematic way. Like, he can also just use a word that, like, maybe he's been using his whole life and isn't great. But I do think there is a stronger argument for him, especially at this point now that he has more disabilities and more cyborgness. Like, there's a stronger argument for him reclaiming that term than Bitch using a term that doesn't actually apply to her, even though she also, we could say, has an intellectual disability that it's unclear if she even would have recognized.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just wanted to draw out that distinction.
Yeah, I think that's true. I did wonder, so, like, I always want to overthink about these little things where we get an interpretation in text, and that's not necessarily confirmed that it's true. Mannequin says BRB, but it's actually BR8. So yes. I was trying to think...
Berate?
Brate? Yeah, brate is nothing.
But berate is something.
So I was wondering if you had any theories.
Oh, I did just take the text's interpretation at face value, though I wasn't sure what it implied because he hasn't come back. Certainly, but, like, BRB, I mean, he could be using it sort of loosely. I feel like it means, like, oh, I'll be back within a few minutes. And it seems like it's been weeks. Like, we've definitely jumped in the timeline, and I assume we'll jump back, but are the Slaughterhouse Nine still there in town? Like, are they gonna... Clearly, it's too late for Colin to take part in this test or whatever, but, like, maybe Mannequin will just come back on his own to try to, like, finish the job.
That is interesting.
Colin. The question of, like, whether it means something else. I don't know. I don't have any great theories for it.
What if Mannequin's target is Dragon. If he thinks he's leaving Colin for dead, but he knows that Dragon can watch everything, right? If this is the sort of like, is this a similar play to what Jack Slash was going to do to Purity?
Yeah.
Right. The same kind of like, oh, you like your little kept man that you have under total surveillance and you work on Tinker projects together. Well, like, wouldn't it be so cool to have Dragon go mad and join me? And what are the amazing things that we could do together?
Because, well, he's not really I don't know if we know if he's a coder, Mannequin. We don't have any evidence of that. But he's a brilliant tinker. Maybe he could change her code.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's possible. I think that Colin is a really reasonable target for him. And, I guess he could just know that Dragon is part of enforcing Colin's imprisonment. But, I don't have reason to think that he would know the extent of the connection there.
Yeah. I'm resisting the idea that Mannequin's 5-dimensional chess move was to get Colin turned partially into a cyborg. I prefer the interpretation that he just was like, well, fine, this guy sucks, I'm going to kill him. And then Dragon actually saved him unexpectedly. But then, what does the BRB mean? So my pitch for the 5-dimensional chess is he changed his target to Dragon.
Yeah, he could have done that during that encounter. He wouldn't have had any reason to think, well, I guess he can assume the Dragon can do whatever she wants. It does seem like he's killed a lot of Tinkers, so maybe he's tried this before and the person hasn't figured out a way to survive or no one saved them. But it does make more sense when the person he's killing is also in the presence of another presumed Tinker.
Yeah. So, where do we go from here?
I think that Colin is going to be surprised and disturbed by Dragon's revelation about who she is, but he's also going to be really touched that he's the only person she's told. And he's going to be so into the idea that technology loves him back in a way. Not that she represents all computers, she is an intelligence, she's a person, even if she's artificially created, but he loves tech. He built himself that computer system to analyze combat. The idea that the sort of smartest piece of tech in the world could care about him. Yeah. He would be so into that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I like that for him.
Yeah. I hope that their relationship turns out well and doesn't go to the dark side. So, okay. I don't think Colin is going to be involved in whatever this trial is. I feel like it's going to be like Oni Lee. Mannequin doesn't get to show up with a contestant. Sort of also like Burn Scar. So far, the Siberian is the only one with a prospective person who might compete. I don't want Bitch to be the one who joins. I kind of feel like we're going to exit this section of interludes, or maybe the next arc, with a new member of the Slaughterhouse Nine. And I don't like any of our possibilities so far.
You did have some good candidates last episode. So I feel like
there are more people who could be. Let's see. So I thought that Bonesaw would approach Panacea. I thought that Crawler would approach Gru, I think.
Yeah.
I thought that the new person who we don't know yet would approach Taylor, even though I guess Crawler could also approach Taylor with the whole insect thing, bug thing. And who was the last Slaughterhouse Nine member?
Shatterbird.
Who did I say? Oh, I said she was going to approach Cricket.
Right.
Yeah, because of some sort of sound resonance radar connection there. Okay. I kind of want Amy to be next, but maybe we'll do maybe we'll do Cricket as sort of let's jump to someone we haven't seen as much from, and then we'll jump back. Or we could do Amy, then Cricket, then Gru. How many is that? There are only going to be 8, and I think Taylor will be the last one, and probably part of the arc. So, let's say Amy's next.
All right, that sounds good. Well, the first sentence is, the high-pitched song of steel rang.
That doesn't sound like it's going to be Amy, though. Who knows? The song of steel, the emphasis on sound makes me think it is actually going to be Cricket. That just feels like it's setting up a mood of loving sound. So Cricket and Chatterbird, I would say.
Cricket and Chatterbird coming next.
Yeah. Probably I can't be as perfect in my prediction as I was last time. I mean, I already am less perfect in my prediction, I think.
We'll see. We'll see. What do you think will happen to Cricket?
Okay, let's see.
Will Cricket be a viable recruit by the end of the chapter? Right, because so far you've said they're...
God, she has to be. She has to be, because otherwise, what are we left with? Bitch, Amy, Gru, Taylor, like... Those are terrible candidates. I mean, obviously, I could be wrong about some number of them.
Oh, I did want to ask you, now that we've seen half of the current membership of the Slaughterhouse Nine, do you have any favorites, least favorites, kind of like, you know, interest in seeing more? Like, I'm not really talking about, like, who do you think is the most powerful?
Yeah.
You know, but just in terms of overall... vibe, aesthetic, narrative interest.
Let's see. I really want to see Jack Slash get killed by Theo within the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So I do feel very invested in that. Burn Scar is really sad, and I kind of want her to get out, but I also, like, I don't know, despise her a little bit, like, maybe through Labyrinth's eyes, like, thinking, like, okay, well, she's kind of telling stories to absolve herself, but she's really kind of, you know, being terrible. So she's also a little less interesting, I feel like, and I don't see a lot of hope for her, maybe like Labyrinth says. Mannequin is fascinating just in terms of what he's done to himself, and I don't really understand how it works. Like, how does he communicate across body parts? So bizarre. Siberian, we didn't really get a sense of exactly what her power is. She's setting up this sort of like, you're not a human, you're an animal thing for bitch. I don't know if I really have a favorite. I think Jack might be the most fun to hate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I asked the question is after these 4 chapters, Mannequin, easy favorite.
Oh, really?
Mannequin, like, I love the robot body horror of it all. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
he
like,
doesn't talk, though. I like the ones who talk.
He's serial killer Inspector Gadget, right? Like,
yes,
it's what a great concept. And like, mannequins are inherently like scary,
creepy,
right? Like, we didn't even talk about the uncanny valley of the mannequin as a great motif for all the themes we were discussing.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is really a great set of villains so far. My hat is off to Slaughterhouse Nine. Yeah, well, mostly to Wildbow.
But yeah. Worst aesthetic, Jack Slash by far. Johnny Depp with a knife.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. Siberian, as we talked about, obviously hot. Burn Scar, really cool powers.
Yeah.
Mannequin does have the coolest aesthetic. You are correct.
Yeah.
I just want to like click the pieces together.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So look, it's the least of the things that would be amazing about a Worm adaptation or Worm getting globally popular. But can you imagine getting a little mannequin doll?
Oh, I would love that. Like, it would be magnetic.
A branded mannequin doll that has like the chains that retract and extend and the little things that magnet into place.
Yes.
Oh my God. What a great project.
I would play with that so much.
Next time.
Am I playing with it next time? All right. Next time on Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildbow. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.